David, title here is When Will Thou Believe Him Instead of This World? Giving is the hardest when you need to do it the most. Trust me, I know. Dear colleague, first, this is for the tithers and the ones who have supported our ministry. I do want to thank you sincerely for donating to our ministry and putting God to the test. There's a reason, because I can't help you if you don't, honestly. If you have yet to see this movie, it's an excellent overview of what I've taught since 2015. My book, Mastering the Law of Least Effort, talked about it in there. Here's the book. The movie's called In God We Test. It's a great movie. Just watch it. It'll really inspire your faith, I hope. Keep in mind, there's more to the equation, though, which is why the formula I teach is the 3-2-1 prosperity formula at MatthewDavidHurtado.com. And I'll go from 1, 2, and 3 here. What is the fastest path to my joy in this moment? Non-judgment and tithing. Okay? As you know, this is the capstone teaching of our ministry, and I'll be honest, it saddens me that more people don't prosper this way. Fear binds them to hoard their reserves. This attitude makes money their god, breaking the first commandment. Why they do? It's obvious. The picture on the screen portrays ideas like recession, depression, depravity, and loss. It's not real, however. The fashion-form world of illusion is just this, a dream of the human five senses. God is forever waiting for you to realize this by holding steadfast to a promise He makes versus an interpretation of this world that's attempting to break your focus off the truth. I want to state the obvious. Well, God didn't change. His people did. Our journey through the realm of matter and the dream of mortality is to refine our faith and build trust. For this reason, I wrote the book, Trust, the Most Powerful Force in the Universe. I also give much credit to my ex-wife Sabrina, who completed her journey with me during the hardest of times, teaching me to trust. She was instrumental in this process. I couldn't have done it without her. She just joined us for a cameo appearance at the Eye of God retreat, and we remain great friends, great co-parents, and our divine marriage changed, and everything evolved when we realized that we'd grown beyond the illusion of this world. Old patterns were let go. Newness out of the Spirit was born, and things changed. I tell you this because it's going to happen for you in some way, because the world is changing. Doesn't mean you're going to get a divorce or lose a business or anything like that. It just means the world is changing at a pace barely recognizable from a mere decade ago. People and circumstances will likely shift either in your life or out of your life in your new awareness because you're entering a higher realm of understanding. It's a fact. The key is to stay in the love and maintain harmonious relating with God's people amid the turbulence of what you see, smell, hear, taste, and touch, which could be aggressive and authoritarian personalities. Remember, it's not the personality, it's the God being His expression that we love. We love God's child because God can't be authoritarian or aggressive. So we remove the personality as an illusion. Or seemingly idiotic people who obey evil like sheep. Same principle. And the relentless hypnotism that persuades you to steer away from God's promises, to trade them in for the allure of falsehood. It's endless. It's coming at your screen all day, every day. I get it. But man is not capable of prospering without God. Nothing exists besides God. That's why. So realizing His allness is the seeking first the kingdom, and all these things get added unto you. Contrary to this, I notice people, now more than ever, messaging me about financially related prayer or help. Of course, I want to pray, and I will pray, and I'll know the truth, but I can't help them unless they're givers. Okay? And I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. While I offer my best as often as possible, many individuals, well, they have yet to contribute or donate or do anything for our ministry. But you see, there's a problem there, because if they're trying to get wisdom there, they don't understand the principle. They've provided sometimes very little, and they expected much in return. Now there are many who've provided a lot. You see, it all depends on where your faith is. Some have been granted scholarships, and this is the stuff that can, really hurts your soul as a minister. And this is probably the hardest part about being a minister, is that you want to help people and you reach out and you give them. Sometimes you give them scholarships, you give them free workshops, you do things that, well, they're not free. Somebody else donated and you use their donation to pay for it, okay? Which is fine. That's what a ministry's for. But in exchange, sometimes they siphon off your teachings and they go after your audience. They try to teach things that they don't even know. You can't teach something you don't understand through experience. So while the latter is rare, it's not many people at all that have ever done that. That's like the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is, well, you get the message and you prosper and life goes well for you because God never lies. Expecting everything for free and giving as little as possible to wisdom, it's a crucial indicator of some people's faith. Now, I rejoice in giving amply to my spiritual advisors, and I always have a ritual about doing it, and I always just say, God, if I go down, I'm going down believing in you, and I know that I would like to be on the recipient end of that love coming like I'm sending to you, so that's why I do it, because what I make happen for others, God makes happen for me. It's simple stuff. It's so simple. So I always think about myself as the source of giving, and I know that the measure I pour out is the measure I get back. This is easy stuff, okay? The giving is the primary path described in the movie, In God We Test. It's worked for me exceedingly well. And when a man says that, I don't have nothing left to give, it really means that he has no room in his heart for forgiveness. It means he's bitter. And bitterness is always rejecting prosperity, always, because you're holding someone or something outside of divine love and holding them in contempt, which actually is holding yourself out of the giving that is required to receive. Now, your giving is a picture of your faith. And putting God to the test, it's a commandment for his grace to flow into your human experience. Otherwise, you've made human will your God, and the ego that drives the personality of that human will. For non-givers, I can't help you, and nobody can, in my opinion, because the purpose of life, your soul's purpose to unfold, is to become the giver, not the taker. Unfortunately, as reflected in our society and culture today, thanks to the internet and the instant gratification, instant dopamine culture, takers abound, and it's their consciousness that's producing the mass hypnosis effect of recession and depression because of what they've been doing, because they're turning away from God. Again, God didn't change, his people did. But you don't have to live in that dream. And God is still ready for you to put him to the test. God never changed. So our ministry is no exception. So this understanding is why I'm even more grateful for you. I know who you are, who've been given to our ministry, and I really do thank you from the bottom of my heart. I always do. I think about it, and I think of your faith. It inspires me to keep my faith going. It's a win-win circle. But there's nothing I can teach anyone who is in defiance of their soul's involvement, because becoming the giver is not a good idea. It's the lesson. I can't help the unwilling, and nor do I want to. Like Mike Murdoch told me in 2009 when I went to a church to see him in St. Louis, I asked him face to face when I was going through Lyme disease to give me a word about my finances. And, after he realized that I don't tithe regularly, he said something along these lines. Why would I try to bless someone who God is cursing? He was telling the truth. I know, I get it. Most people don't want to believe the Bible unless it fits their creation model. Likewise, I don't want to preach to individuals I can't do a thing for, nor can I help them prosper. I have walked this path for over 2 decades in obedience to tithing and giving with love, far more significant than 10%. God's proven himself to me. The only thing I can offer you as a minister is my trust in him. That comes from experience. Anybody can read the same word. Anybody can tell you the same words in the Bible. Where you receive wisdom from is from someone who has given their life to that part of the Bible so that they're conveying to you the fact that they know it's true. They don't just read it, they know it's true. Now, I've doubted God throughout this process, yes. I've gotten angry at the fact that my timing is not his, and several times I've even sworn out loud because I was so upset that he wasn't prospering my business in the way that I thought he should. Look, it worked effortlessly when I stopped trying and I got out of the way. So once you realize the following fact, all things will be clear to you. I of myself can do nothing. That's what Jesus said to his disciples. If you'd start saying that to the ego mind that wants to believe it is a God and can reason for its own safety, survival, finances, success, get others to beckon to its will, and figure everything out with stress, worry, and concern, instead just say to yourself, your ego, hey, I of myself can do nothing. Then put God to the test. And since your faith is being nourished by wisdom, right here through Allow Ministries message, you can plant your seed to our ministry at MatthewDavidHurtado.com, or you may need to be inspired to give somewhere else. If that's the case, then it's honorable to plant your time, focus, and energy there and not take in multiple teachings. This is something that has to be more understood. You don't want to learn multiple teachings because you've ultimately demonstrated none then. So when you find a spiritual home, a minister or somebody who inspires you to become the giver, because that is the life purpose here. That's what the rabbi does in the Jewish tradition in the movie that you watch in God We Test. That's what he's doing. Well, if you agree with it, you found wisdom. And once you find wisdom, she is a giver who will open her bosom to you and pour out her blessing so much that you don't have enough room to receive it. You can only teach what you know through experience, and if you can't teach it, it means you haven't learned it. If you haven't learned it, it means you're not willing. And if you're not willing, it means you're still trying to use human will in replacement for receiving divine grace. Now, the next time someone comes to me, like the dozen or so that I have in the last couple weeks, and requests my assistance in issues relating to monies, remember this message, because it's the fullness of the wisdom as it pertains to, well, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. How you give is how you live. How you give is how you live. Please note, you can't outgive God. I'm not trying to make it a ploy here for you to donate to our ministry. It certainly is nice, and we do love it when you give generously to our ministry, because we give generously too. But I don't want you to do that because I'm reading this to you and I'm trying to coerce you into anything, because that doesn't work. It has to come from your love for God. Otherwise, it's not a real gift at all. All I can do is try to inspire you with what I know is true. You can't reason your way out of a soul purpose unfoldment. That's to become the giver. And a fearless giver is only born out of God's testing. That's why Malachi, I believe, came to teach in Malachi 3:9, verse 11. It says in verse 9, "You are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation." It says in 10, "Bring ye all the tithes in the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be enough room to receive it." It's the only part in the Bible that says, "Prove me now." Number 11, "And I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith the Lord of hosts." Yes, I've seen the thousands of videos and scrolling and the narrative surrounding the anti-tithing, it's the new covenant argument. Well, if that works for you, think about this, then you wouldn't need God. That's something to think about very closely. If you don't need God, here's a flash hint, you've made yourself one. Now, the New Agers are good at this, and so are the same minds who brought you the latest in the thing that seems to be quite destructive, if you know what I mean. Here's what I know about the human mind, and thousands of years have proven this. When it's not chastened by adhering to divine will, it becomes oppressive and even murderous. Thousands of years of history prove this case, and it's only reasonable to suspect that the same mind, which Paul called the carnal mind, still governs those around you today. To leave Egypt and its bondage, Malachi 3 explains it all. And yes, it's that simple for those who have the knowledge that only comes from testing God. Now get this, I've never accomplished anything significant on my own human understanding, not once. When I learned how to sow faith through tithing and to give, always with love, God stepped in every time and poured out the blessing. Not my way, His way. Also, I find it rather stupid to assume that trusting in God would allow someone to go out there and watch all the anti-tithing arguments to go build a case against what you're trying to achieve, any more than it would be to read about healing, divine healing, and then go listen to all the reasons why it can't be done. Oh, it's incurable, it's impossible. If I would have believed that, I would have never walked out of Lyme disease. It's because I had to stop looking at that stuff and stop believing in something that wasn't of God. I think the tithing works so well for many, consequently and not for others, because God knows if you do believe Him or not. It has to be settled in the heart. Now, let me tell one more thing. It almost bears no response when you look at it objectively. But if you don't believe God's promise about Him opening the windows of heaven and pouring out a blessing, what else are you trusting in? This world? The gurus? In the Bible, it says every man is a liar and every word out of the mouth of God is true. When you start proclaiming this and settle it in your heart and never turn away from Him, miracles resume their rightful operation in your life, reflection of Him.